Hey guys, thank you so much for joining in again. We are very excited today because, as you can see, we have Aaron Thompson with us from SuccessHACKER. For people who don't know Aaron, I'm assuming everyone knows you, Aaron, already by your LinkedIn and with SuccessHACKER. But people who don't know him, he's a general partner at SuccessHACKER, the leading provider of customer success enablement and education. He's also a connector and educator in the customer success domain. And as we were talking, he has like a couple of decades of experience working with customers. As for me, I'm going to be a moderator and host for today. My name is Nilesh. I head marketing at CustomerSuccessBox. And we have a very interesting topic for today, which Aaron likes to put it as customer success is employee success. And he has a pretty solid framework to share with you guys. And we would love to keep this engaging. So keep those questions coming. Use the chat box, use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And I think I'm going to just hand it over to Aaron from here.
All right. Works for me. Thanks, Nilesh, and thanks to everybody for joining. I don't see the chat and stuff, so if there are questions that come in, just interrupt me. I'm more than happy to.
Sure, I'll do that.
Divert from my PowerPoint deck here. Let's see. Okay, so first and foremost, I don't want to assume anybody knows who I am, and certainly not my experience and why I would even be worth sitting here and listening to for the next few minutes. So who is this guy? So who are we? Let's start there. SuccessHACKER, customer success management, consulting, training. We have an online platform where we certify and train at scale. And then we also do in-person workshops, 2-day intensives. And then in the middle, we have this coaching concept where we actually have a 12-week program where you meet once a week with one of our coaches. And the coaches are one of these 4 folks. Andrew Marks and Todd Eby founded SuccessHACKER about 5 years ago. And to date, we've certified over 1,000 or so customer success practitioners. They originally set out to create a community of customer success managers and practitioners. And what they quickly realized was a gaping hole in the market around enablement. So customer success being very new, there's a lot of differences from organization to organization. There's not a whole lot of standardization. And so they set out to start standardizing this practice of customer success. And a few years after that, they brought in James Scott. And then about a year and a half ago, I came in. I was a customer success entrepreneur out of Portland, Oregon. That's where I live today. And it's not where I'm at today. If you can see the sunshine coming in on my face, that doesn't happen in Portland very often, so I'm lucky to be in Chicago today. But I was a consultant there in Portland, and I have a training and instructional design background. Every position I've ever had has been customer-facing. The first job that I had was 14 years old. I worked with customers at an athletic club in the U.S., and then my first job out of college actually was taking customer service phone calls at a health insurance company here in the U.S., and I never imagined that experience would lend itself to my ultimate career. And then I found customer success after running some large support organizations and then building CS from scratch. I was able to develop my own strategy around this. And that's really when I jumped in head first and fell in love with this thing that is customer success. And I'm happy to talk more about that. But at its core, customer success is about the people. Where we differentiate ourselves from account management, customer support, is that it's a person-to-person function. And so I always like to introduce myself as a human, not just what I do in the customer success domain. So this is my son, Henry. He turned 9 in July, and that's our dog, Simba. He turned 5 in March. You can see Henry enjoys swimming, and we've got a baseball game down there at the bottom where he's holding up that finger. That was Father's Day a few years ago. In the middle there where we're all dudded up wearing the ties is where I taught Henry how to bet on horses actually during the Kentucky Derby a couple of years ago. And unfortunately he won. So now he thinks that's super easy and what a great way to take his $4 of allowance and turn it into 6. So hopefully we can learn the lessons of gambling a little later. Harry Potter there in the bottom right was a vacation last summer. But this is sort of my life, and that's how your customers are too. We need to be self-aware that our customers are humans, and our portion in their overall life is frankly, a lot smaller than maybe their portion in our overall life. And we need to keep that in mind as we work with our customers. And so over the time, I've actually developed a strategy, and I spoke about this revenue development strategy specific to customer success at a few conferences years ago. And it's just continued to refine over time. And what I've realized is actually customer success is employee success and vice versa. So if we apply the same customer success principles and methodologies that we do to our external customers, if we apply those internally as a manager, we can be just as predictive and proactive with our employees' success and engagement and adoption. So let me kind of show you what that looks like. Let's start here with the classic formula. And luckily, this isn't a real complicated formula, so I can understand it. Customer success, the quantification of customer success, CS, equals the customer's desired outcome plus the customer's desired experience. And make no mistake, what the customer ultimately cares about is their desired outcome. They will put up with a less than perfect experience if they have to in order to achieve their desired outcome. But they really don't care about our products. They don't care about our companies. They care about their desired outcomes. And the sooner we can align our business objectives and goals to those desired outcomes, the sooner we can fit into our customers' holistic life, like I was talking about. So they are a whole human who has a life outside of work. And if we can deliver their desired outcome with an experience that maybe saves them a little bit of time or certainly money, but more importantly, time, because that's the resource we just can't make more of, that's when we can fit into their holistic life and make their life better. And that's what we want to do in customer success, is make that person's life better. And to do that, we need to view them as a holistic person. So when we look at the business and how customer success plays into the overall business, customer success loves revenue. And this is a business growth strategy that I've been talking about for a few years now. And when done effectively, customer success should help every other area of the organization. And so I'm going to walk through this kind of slowly. And then what we'll do is we'll actually take this and look at it internally and what that would mean for your employees if you are a manager of customer success managers, or anyone, frankly. If you're a people manager, you can apply a lot of this directly to your team and have some pretty profound outcomes from it. So first and foremost, let's talk about business, let's talk about customer success, and let's talk about revenue. Okay, so customer success loves revenue. When executed effectively, customer success should deliver a better marketing ROI. So up at the top of the funnel here, so this is a classic land and expand sales funnel. Demand generation and awareness is done by your marketing team. So that's the red that you see up there. That's your customer acquisition cost, or CAC. If you aren't familiar with that, do a little Googling and learn about that, because that's for a subscription business, a subscription pricing model. That is what will ultimately determine if you are successful or not. That was what ultimately was crippling Salesforce in 2005 when David Dempsey invented customer success and the need for this proactive, strategic way of managing your customer's life cycle. But so marketing ROI should go up. You should get more for every dollar spent at the top of the funnel if we're doing this correctly. Your sales cycles should go down. You should have a faster sales cycle if you're doing this correctly. Your sales conversion rates should go up. You should close a higher percentage of the leads and opportunities that come into your funnel if you're doing this correctly. Your customer acquisition cost will go down. That's the CAC. And then your customer's lifetime value, or LTV, should actually be higher, because they're going to be spending more and expanding their spend and staying longer with you if we're doing this correctly. So what that starts to look like in practice is, first off, customer success preserves revenue. So if we're going to effectively deliver customer success management, first and foremost, we have to keep the customers we get, because we're spending all this money at the top to go through demand generation and awareness, and then they go through the evaluation and decision-making process. That's your sales team. And then everything down here in the blue is where we live in customer success. Activate is just getting them live. Time to value is another metric. If you're not tracking that, you must. TTV for short. And that's from the moment that I give you a minute of my time, if I'm your customer, to the moment that I receive compelling business value. The longer that clock is, the more friction-filled the experience of onboarding is going to be considered, and the more likely I am to churn. So you need to pay attention to TTV as we go through and activate our customers. Optimize is making sure that I'm spending, or I'm using everything effectively that I'm spending money on. So this is kind of your shelfware prevention. This isn't selling me new stuff. This is just making sure that I'm following best practices and educating around what I have purchased. If there are any questions, just slow me down and stop, just jump in. Unless, do you have something?
No, I think our audience doesn't have questions yet, but I do. Yeah, it's an interesting point you make when you say optimize and just do what you are doing. It's not about anything new, but is that also where you would consider like customer marketing, where you need to be constantly communicating with your existing customers?
Possibly. It's really more a account management tactic of, are you using what you've bought, as opposed to let me show you the other things that we have. That's really where I see customer marketing living is, okay, now that we have you optimized, let's talk about some other business opportunities and some other things that we can do.
Yeah, and I think it's a coherent theme across, like whenever we are talking customer success, and especially when we talk onboarding, a lot of people, what they forget is that if your customer doesn't get early value, the revenue is never going to be preserved.
Yeah. There's a shocking stat around onboarding. 90% of the customers who churn at their first available opportunity. So that could be after a month if you have month-to-month contracts, so that could be a year. But wherever it is, if I leave as soon as I possibly can, 90% of the time that happens, I decided I would do it in my first 30 days of working with you. It's just like any new, first impression. First impressions last, and you can never, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And if you do it right, you can really start the customer off in the right trajectory. If you do it wrong, you can almost not recover no matter what you do for the rest of their contract.
Got it.
So activation is key. If you do anything in customer success, if you have 1 minute to focus on strategy as a leader, make it onboarding. Until you have onboarding completely frictionless, focus that, because that's such a critical component of the life cycle. A good survey to run after onboarding is a CES, a customer effort score. It measures the perceived level of friction by your customer. And so you can use that to see if what you're refining in that onboarding process is actually improving the customer's experience or not. But once we get through activation, we get through optimization, then we have renewal. And customer success needs to preserve as much of the revenue as possible, because customers are expensive. And if we don't keep them long enough to overcome the acquisition cost, we actually are losing money on those customers, and we would have been better off not even marketing to them up there in the red part of that funnel. So then once we do that and we're able to preserve the revenue that we have, what we want to have happen is customer success expands the revenue. So we want either through utilization, meaning they're using more of our stuff, or new business units when we're expanding the spend there. But this isn't selling them something new. This is using more of what we have, right? Using more of what they've already bought. And the reason that's different, or the reason why that matters, buying something new versus using more of what I have, is because of the acquisition and the overhead that it takes to go through the sales process again. So if I have to take someone back through an evaluation and decision-making process, there's overhead to my business that I don't have to do if you're just going to use more of what you already have. And so that's an important distinction to make, the difference between expansion revenue, like we're talking about here at the bottom of the funnel, and upsell or cross-sell revenue up, which will be through the advocacy arrow that you see there. I'll get to in a moment.
I mean, that helps. I think that is very important. And anyone in the audience who's listening, a lot of people have come to us when we try to set up customer success practices, and people have a hard time differentiating between expansion and upsells. Yeah.
And think about it, again, you want to think about it from the customer's perspective. And, internally for us, it may or may not be that different, but for them, it sure is, because if I have to learn a new product, I have to go through onboarding again. You've got to take me all the way through this activation step, versus I already know the product. I'm just going to use more of it, introduce my friends to it, something like that. It's a very different journey for them, and there's different friction and levels of expectation necessary to be aware of.
Yeah, and I think a simple way I normally tell people is, like, think of it as expansion is basically just as simple as the number of licenses, whereas upsell could be like 3 additional features which you'll have to teach them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when you do that, now you have training and education and other overhead that you have to account for. And the customer does too. Exactly. Good. Okay. So then that's where customer success is going to expand the revenue. So now we're actually generating additional revenue, top line revenue for our business. So that's the second revenue stream that we are responsible for, compared to net new sales. That's one revenue stream. Customer success has 3: retention, expansion, and then advocacy, which is what I'll talk about now. So customer success actually creates revenue, net new revenue, with a shorter sales cycle. Notice that this arrow comes into the middle of the funnel. It doesn't go back through the top, because if you have a customer advocate, and what I mean by advocate is a customer who brings you another customer. So they're bringing you, they're introducing you, they are in a meetup or a community, and they say to their friend, man, I can't live without CustomerSuccessBox. I'm so happy I have them in my enterprise. And they now bring that lead to you. You get to shortcut it. You didn't have to pay the acquisition cost at the top. And so it actually costs you 1/13 the price to attain that customer. You just have to take them through the evaluation, decision-making process, and then everything at the bottom. And so when we do that, that's when we have our much greater conversion rates, because it's just scientifically known that sales cycles are faster when it's a word of mouth referral, and conversion rates are higher. So we are more likely to buy something if our friend tells us about it than if we are just cold call, marketed, outbound, prospected, whatever. Because they have their own experience and they tell their story. And when their story is so wildly successful, they become an advocate for you. They start bringing you those net new customers that you save the acquisition cost on, you close faster on, and you close a higher number of them. That's where we unlock exponential revenue growth for SaaS companies or any company operating under customer success principles, because we're saving the spend at the top while getting net new revenue in the middle of that funnel through the advocacy plays. And so I like to think of this like my mom, 70 years old, I'm at her house and she says, do you want to watch a movie? Sure. Okay, go in the living room and pick out a DVD. And, my mind got blown. Like, wait, you don't have Netflix? No, I don't have Netflix. Why would I want Netflix? Oh, Mom, I got to get you set up on Netflix. So Netflix has made my life so wildly successful or whatever. I've enjoyed my experience with them, and they've delivered on my desired outcome to such a high degree that I couldn't imagine my mom's life without it. They didn't market to her. They didn't have to spend any acquisition costs to get my mom, but now they have her as a customer without having to do anything. That's what we want to have happen with our businesses. We want to make it such a wildly successful experience, delivering on the outcomes in such a profound way that our customers become advocates and bring us those net new customers.
Very well said. I think everyone wants that. I think I'm pretty sure all the CSMs listening on, they want that for sure, where you can just have your customers as product champions and evangelists and getting you new referrals and case studies.
Yeah, but how do you do that intentionally is the question, You need to create a nice, frictionless, easy experience for them to do that. There needs to be a platform for them to do that on. Oftentimes, providing them an opportunity to be seen as a thought leader in their own world and their own set of peers so that they can say, man, I would never be here without CustomerSuccessBox, right? That's the conversation you need to be focusing on. And the nice thing about this, if you're sophisticated enough in your customer success management to actually be executing advocacy plays, you're not worried about retaining customers. They're going to stay. If they're an advocate for you, you're not focused on retaining that revenue. You're focused on growing net new revenue through strategy as opposed to a defensive mechanism of retention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And we have a couple of questions on those lines. Nathan has a question, whether you have like a checklist of foundational components for a customer success strategy.
For a customer success strategy, we do. In our level 1 curriculum, we have actually the 10 things that need to be addressed in your customer success strategy. It's everything from ICP, which I'll talk about in a second, ideal customer profile and knowing that, all the way through segmentation, health scoring, voice of the customer. And yeah, we definitely address that in our training. There's about 10 things that you need to make sure that you're doing if you want to have a robust customer success strategy.
I hope that answers the question, Nathan. I'm also sending you the link where you can check the training program for module 1.
Yeah, it's in the key concepts module. It's actually the first module of our first level. We just say, here's what needs to be included. And then through a lot of our other trainings, we get into the details of each of those, but that's the sort of overview. And
we have another question, which it says, any wisdom when your product is looked at as a competitive advantage, and therefore customers are less likely to want to tell their competitors about your product?
Can you say that one again, Nilesh? I didn't catch that one.
So I think what the question is that if your product is actually a competitive advantage for your customer, and therefore customers are less likely to want to tell their competitors about your product.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'd love to, can we elaborate on that? Can we get a real world scenario?
I'm just going to reply to that. Let's see if they have a real life scenario.
Yeah. I mean, if we can at least unpack what vertical or market we'd be talking about, I think that'll help me understand.
Yeah, let's wait for the person to reply. In the meanwhile, let's carry on.
Okay, cool. So ICP, I mentioned ideal customer profile. So now we're over here and customer success spends intelligently. So in addition to generating that net new revenue through advocacy, we want to also be more efficient with our top of funnel spend. So what we need to do in customer success is partner with our marketing colleagues so that we can refine our target. So at the top of the funnel, when we go to market, we think we know who our customer is, and we develop an ICP around the problem that we solve and how we're going to solve it better than our competitors. And we go to market with that. And then a year later, 5 years later, at some point down the road, we've had customers come and stay and expand and advocate, and we've had customers come and leave. And those two customer stories need to be really well understood so that we can refine who we market to at that top of the funnel. That then makes us more efficient with our customer acquisition cost while still bringing us quality net new leads through our outbound and inbound prospecting efforts. But if we're not refining our target over time, we're not becoming more intelligent with our spend, and we're not learning from those stories. We're missing a golden opportunity in customer success to help the organization be more efficient with that ever so precious resource of revenue or capital. So we need to be refining the target up at the top through the ICP. And that's where we can help our marketing partners. at the top of the funnel. So you can see customer success directly affecting marketing at the top, sales in the middle, and then obviously all of the activity that we work directly with the customers on at the bottom, completely cross-departmental. Customer success is not a job function. Customer success is a philosophy. It's a strategy for the entire business to operate under. And there are different ways that you need to align your business to be truly customer-centric. You need to be aligning your objectives with your customers' desired outcomes, and then monitoring and managing their health to understand, are we delivering on those outcomes in a more frictionless experience, a better customer experience than our competitors? And when we are, we're delivering a higher quantification of customer success. Any answers on that?
I think so. He replied that he's also trying to think of a real life example. It just came up as a thought that what if you could not talk about a product?
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you have a product that your customers can't talk about, it's going to be pretty hard to market it at the top of the funnel. It's going to be pretty hard to sell it in the middle, and it'd be really hard to have advocates for it. But I mean, yeah, hypothetically speaking, I suppose that would be a challenge, but a real world scenario would really help me unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so the ICP. So we refine the ideal customer profile. We start getting smarter with our spin at the top. And we do all of this through a proactive, strategic set of playbooks. And so everything from activation to optimization to expansion opportunity, realization, advocacy, even the ICP refining and how often we work with marketing, all need to be standardized through plays and playbooks that we use across the organization. And all of those need to be proactive. That's the difference between customer success and customer support. Customer success is strategic, proactive business growth philosophy. Customer support is a tactical, reactive operation of the business. So they're very different, even though they sound very similar. And when we do all of this effectively or the right way, it's proactive. We are predicting what our customers are going to want, need, and desire to be successful, i.e. accomplish their definition of success, CO plus CX. We want to be predictive and strategic with how we get them there. And if we spend most of our time in a reactive firefighting mode, we're not doing customer success. I don't care what your title is or how customer-centric your organization says they are. If your relationship management with your customers is over 50% reactive, you're doing customer support. You're not doing customer success. Customer success should be proactive. And when we do that, we have profound impact on the top and bottom line of the business.
I think that's a very good point. In fact, I have a question there. Since I had marketing, would you say, Aaron, that what you're saying, it actually means that get in your first customer success manager as early as possible so that you avoid probably selling to the wrong ICP?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're asking the customer success guy, right? I love this stuff. I live and breathe it. It is my life's work. So I might be a little biased, but I personally believe that one of the founders of the organization, one of the founders needs to be a customer success expert. Because as you go to market, you need to have that nice product market fit. And how you get that is by working with your partners. Maybe it's your customer. Maybe it's just somebody in the market, in the industry that's going to give you feedback and they're not paying anything, but they're still a customer of your product. And then refining that over time and realizing what that value proposition is in the market might not be exactly what you thought it was going to be. And you have to be open to that. That's why businesses pivot and things like that. But there's a nice line to walk between innovation and showing the market something new and listening to the customer and what the market is actually asking for. And that's where customer success and product actually need to be really tightly knit. Yeah. So as you're going to market, I love it when an organization has a single head of product and customer success. They have one person when they're early in their growth stage that manages both of those job functions. It makes the tightest product market fit you can ever imagine.
No, I totally get what you mean. I mean, we recently revamped our ICP process, and we had the head of product lead the process because he was our first customer success guy also.
Yeah.
So
I love it. But granted, I love this stuff, and I'm going to be very, very much a customer success focused leader forever. But I think that we will see over time, and we're starting to see this play out more and more CEOs being promoted up from the chief customer officer position than the chief revenue officer or head of sales. We're seeing historically that's where most CEOs have come from, and we're seeing more and more momentum over to that because it's all predicated on the shift in the economy, right? When we moved from selling products to deliver that desired outcome to being able to deliver the outcome through services with a much lower cost for the customer, that shifted the financial risk from the customer who used to have to buy the whole product to get the outcome and now can just pay for it on a monthly subscription service to get that outcome. That changes everything, and how you operate your business needs to change as well.
Yep, great.
Okay, so there's sort of how customer success plays into the top, bottom line, cross-departmental from a traditional land and expand business growth funnel. If we take that and change it to an employee, if we have the same exact principles, but we're now focusing it internally on our staff instead of externally on our customer, the outcomes will be the same, but they're just all for us and our employees. So your recruiting ROI goes up, your recruiting life cycle goes down, the hire rates, the amount of people you talk to who you actually end up hiring go up. What I'm calling your employee acquisition cost, which is like a customer acquisition cost, will go down, and then your employee tenure will go up. So we're taking the exact same principles and we're looking at renewal. Every one of the employees on your team sits back at some point of the year and thinks, do I want to do this for another year? And when they decide they don't, is when they start answering those LinkedIn requests from recruiters, and they start asking their friends about their jobs, and they start looking at Glassdoor. When they decide they do want to do it for another year, they don't respond to that stuff. And so every year, your employees make a conscious decision to renew as your team member. And we need to be conscious of that. They're not working there because they would choose to necessarily. Most people work because they have to, and they want that work experience to be as frictionless as possible. They want their desired outcomes as your employees to be delivered upon. And yeah, that's pay, right? We all need to make money to be able to live, but there's also work-life balance and social conscience and company culture and all these things that go into their decision-making of, do I want to keep working here? But when they decide to, you have retained an employee. So employee success retains your employees. Employee success also expands your employees. And I'll come back to that. I see a couple of questions, I think, so I want to make sure
Yeah, I think, so Shreyas has an interesting question. Will your model, like the customer success model, does the same model apply to non-SaaS companies?
Sorry. Does the same model apply to non-SaaS companies?
Yeah, what do you think about customer success and non-SaaS companies?
Well, yeah. The interesting thing about that, I get that question a lot, and I always answer it with, anytime a customer buys something from you again, that's a renewal. And so even if you sell transactionally, I sell candy bars, and you bought one candy bar, you don't have a subscription to it. It's not a candy bar as a service. It's a candy bar. And you bought the product to have the desired outcome of getting to eat a candy bar. Now, that's great. I sold it to you once. For my business to succeed, I need you to come buy another candy bar. And that's a renewal. And so even when you sell transactionally and live in a non-SaaS world, all of these business principles still apply, assuming you need your customers to buy from you more than one time, which is pretty much every company.
Well, I think that's well said. I don't think I could have put it better. But yeah, I mean, Shreyas, even if you're selling non-SaaS, at the end of the day, you do want people to come back and buy from you. So maybe you can't do recurring customer success like we do in SaaS, but you will still need an outreach program, a customer engagement program in place.
Yeah, and advocates. You always want your customers to bring you those new customers. But yeah, maybe you don't have engagement metrics that you can track in your product because it's an on-premise product or a physical product or a candy bar, for example. But there are still a ton of customer success principles that will help your business.
All right, let's carry on.
Okay. Okay, so then employee success expands the employee's tenure with you. That gets them to invest more of their time, more of their effort. When you have employees who are willing to go above and beyond, that is because you're doing an effective management or employee success strategy. So just like our external customers spend more with us and invest more with us, your employees do as well. And frankly, it's a more precious resource than the capital and revenue that your customers are investing in you. It's your employees' time. And we want to be really, really conscious about that. They'll never get that time back. And so we want to keep that front of mind in how we try to deliver on their desired outcomes as employees on our teams. And then if I keep moving into advocacy, employee success recruits via advocates. I think we've all probably had a friend say, man, you should come work with me. I love where I work. And then we've probably all had a friend say, God, I hate my job. My boss is the worst. Your employees are talking about you, guaranteed. It's just a matter of if they're talking about you positively or negatively. And so we want to be conscious about that. We want to do everything we can to empower them, to enable them, to train them so that they're able to grow with their time that they're investing in working there. They want more than a paycheck. They need more than a paycheck. And they'll find another employer who gives them more than a paycheck if you're not doing it. So we want to be advocates. We want to create advocates out of them because we've invested in them so much and we've helped them grow in their careers so much. And so we can recruit that way. We can get net new employees by executing employee success that are just like a net new customer. And we don't have to market to them at the top, meaning we don't have to actively recruit. They're coming to us as opposed to us going out and recruiting them on LinkedIn and all of the top of funnel activity that we would do for internal employee success. Employee success is efficient recruiting. So of the recruiting that we do at the top of the funnel, we want to get more efficient. So as managers, we know the successful employees that we've recruited and brought in, and we know the ones that didn't work out. We need to be working with recruiting and HR to make sure that we are refining who we are recruiting to so that they match basically an ideal customer profile. It'd be an ideal employee profile. It'd be an IEP up there where we're actually targeting fewer people today than we did a year ago, because we know the ones that work well for our culture and our business and our strategy and where we're going strategically, et cetera. So we should help recruiting actually spend more efficiently at the top of the funnel. Just jump in, Nilesh. I see a whole bunch of stuff going on. So stop me if you need.
I think Shreyas has a question again. He's asking, how can customer success teams convince the HR teams to allow them to be involved in employee engagement for employee success?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of a customer success team convincing. I think it's just a matter of a manager. And I don't think you're convincing them as much as showing them the advantage for them. So partner tightly with them so that they have a better idea of who an ideal employee is while they're out there recruiting, so that they can be more efficient with their time and their resources. And so that's what's in it for them. Anytime you need to motivate and not convince, that's not the right word, but instill change without authority, you need to do it through what we call a WIFM, what's in it for me. And so you would, in order to get HR and recruiting to bring you into those conversations, you need to pose it in a way that shows them, here's why this is a good idea for you. And it needs to genuinely be that as well.
Yeah, I think, Shreyas, what you need to do probably is talk to your, if you are the head of CS or if you're the manager, just talk to your HR team. And almost, I think all HR teams have a specific target on attrition, and you are only helping them reduce that. So I don't think they will have a problem if you have ideas how to increase employee engagement and how to keep people for a longer time.
Yeah. I mean, they want to recruit people who are, what do they call it? Hire to retire.
Yeah.
So if you're in recruiting, you want to find those perfect people that are going to be there forever and invest more and bring you, their friends and family because they're so wildly successful. So who better to help recruiting in HR than the managers of the teams who are focusing on delivering the desired outcome for their employees, just like we deliver desired outcomes for our customers.
All right. I hope that answers that. We were talking about efficient recruiting, Aaron.
Yep. And then we'll just keep moving into the managing proactively. Mm-hmm. So many times as a people manager, and I've managed large teams at large companies, and I've built teams from scratch at startups. So I've seen it all. And I've been an employee and I've reported up to people. I've had great bosses and I've also had horrible bosses. I've lived it all. And as I sit back and think about how does customer success relate to a manager's role, one thing that I don't think many managers do is proactive employee management. I don't think they are predicting what their employee is going to want. I think they're actually doing a more customer support model where they feel like as long as I answer the phone and answer the email and talk, have my door open for my employees to come in and talk to me whenever they need to, I'm doing a good job. I'd say you might be doing a good job, but you're not doing a great job. The best managers I've had are the ones who were proactive. They suggested things for me to go to. They put me through training and education without me even asking about it because they wanted to be out ahead of it. That, I think, makes an amazing manager. I was very lucky to work for some phenomenal people throughout my career. And the difference between them and the ones that were maybe okay, they were proactive and they were investing in my education and development without me even asking about it. They came and said, hey, we have this budget. Which one of these classes do you want to go to? It wasn't a matter of me coming into them and saying, hey, I'd like to go to this class. They were strategic about that. Not to mention my onboarding was very frictionless. When I got there for day one, they had a laptop ready. They had a desk ready. They had a phone ready. They had an outline of everything I should do on my first day, my first week, and my first month. And it was all prescribed, just like you would want a nice frictionless onboarding for your customers. Same thing for your employees. The ones who leave as quickly as they can probably had a pretty bumpy onboarding where they showed up and, oh man, today's your first day? Holy cow. Well, you better go down to IT and get yourself a laptop and then here's some stuff to read. I'll come back to you. And you end up just kind of on an island for the first week of your employment. And you're like, why am I even here? Well, I'm adding no value. I'm getting nothing out of this other than I'm being paid to sit here. Those types of onboardings can start things off the wrong way, and then you lose the employee, and now you got to go back to recruiting and you got to refill the rec. We all know how much less expensive it is to retain our employees, just like our customers. And so do it proactively. Be strategic about it. Don't just be reactive and helpful that way. That's important too, but that's employee support. Do employee success where you're actually proactively helping them grow.
Does it also mean that maybe, when even while you're hiring, you should actually be aware of what exactly is the employee looking from your company other than the role he's being hired for?
I think that's a really good point. Yeah. It's a very common question, right? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, or what goals do you have, or whatever? But I don't know if anybody's ever asked in an interview, what is your desired outcome? Like what do you want out of working here? And then you start unpacking what their desired experience is, whether that's some work from home balance, or I want to move into management, or I want to move into technical track, or whatever the goals are. And you start creating that definition of customer success, which, just right here. So employee success, change the CS to an ES, equals their desired outcome plus their desired experience. It's the exact same formula, just inward focused on our teams.
Great. So Nathan has a question. He's asking if there are any thought leading industry groups on customer success that you can recommend to him.
Industry groups for customer success practitioners?
Yeah. Where he can connect with other CS pros.
Yeah. Well, we have a online community. Let's see. Do I have it on a slide here? There it is. So customersuccess.community will take you to our online community called Outcomes, and we have over 5,000 people in that community. Most cities have meetups. I have a large one in Portland. I started it about 4 years ago, and it's grown to over 450 people. Most cities and places do. And then we do a lot online. I work from home when I'm not traveling. I don't have an office. So Todd and Andrew are down in San Francisco. James is over in Atlanta. So we're dispersed. So I like to do online stuff and just connect with people this way. But if anybody has questions on places to connect, I'd be happy to introduce you to people. I know people in a lot of cities, especially in the US, but even worldwide, and would love to help connect. That's one of the things I love to do, is just connect customer success experts together.
All right. Do we have any more questions? I think we are done with our set of questions. If anyone has any questions, just raise your hands or put in the chat. Otherwise, it's been great talking to you, Aaron. It's a new perspective for me as well, because this is the first time I'm heading the entire division and hiring a team. So it helps to understand from a perspective of someone who has managed, I think, over decades. And I mean, Puneet is not there on the webinar. He would agree with most of the stuff, and he would love the perspective that, a CEO should have some kind of customer success experience.
I bet he would love that.
Puneet decided to form CustomerSuccessBox because of that, when he was being measured on recurring revenue.
Yeah.
So,
well, my pleasure, Nilesh. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I see something blinking in here.
I think people are just thanking us. They really like the webinar.
Great. Well, let's see. My contact information will be on the webinar. Let's see. I can stop sharing and we're bigger. Okay. And I'd love to meet anybody. So please reach out. Find me on LinkedIn. I love to connect people and help any way that we can. So don't be a stranger.
Yeah, connect with Aaron on LinkedIn. Hit me up on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Twitter as well. Helena says, thanks. Thank you so much for staying there, Helena, right from start. Helena was the first attendee to join. So she has been there for an hour now. And thank you so much, guys. Look forward to our next webinar. I'll announce it shortly. And as for this webinar, we'll send you a recording probably by tomorrow. If you're in India, then end of day. But if you're in US, then tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds great, Nilesh. Thanks again.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.